The night began with the kind of silence that presses against the chest, the kind that makes a person aware of every mistake that led them there, standing in a small lodge in rural Colorado with a single suitcase and a heart full of unsaid fears. The words that changed everything had already been said, calmly and without drama, yet they echoed louder than thunder in my mind. There was only one room left, and somehow that simple fact felt like a test I hadn't studied for, a crossroads disguised as inconvenience, a moment that would quietly decide the direction of two lives without either of us realizing it yet. If you believe that small choices can change destinies, that kindness still matters, and that second chances can appear in unexpected forms, take a moment right now to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. Your support keeps stories like this alive. My name is Michael Carter, and at that time I was just another overworked project coordinator trying to prove himself in a corporate world that rarely noticed effort unless it failed. The business trip had been rushed, poorly planned, and forced upon us by a last-minute client demand in a quiet mountain town outside Aspen. Flights were delayed, roads were icy, and every hotel within 50 miles was either booked or charging prices that mocked our expense policy. By the time we reached the last available lodge, exhaustion had stripped us down to our most honest selves. My boss, Rebecca Thompson, stood near the front desk with her coat still on, glasses slightly fogged, and the weight of responsibility settled firmly on her shoulders. Rebecca was known in the Chicago office as unapproachable, efficient, and emotionally distant. She was respected, sometimes feared, but never truly known. I had worked under her for nearly 2 years, learning her expectations, her silences, and the way she demanded excellence without ever explaining why it mattered to her. That night, though, she looked different. Not weaker, but human. The lodge was warm, smelling of pine and old wood, with a fireplace crackling softly behind us. When the clerk explained the situation, something in Rebecca's expression shifted, as if she had expected disappointment but still felt its sting. The decision came quickly, almost instinctively. I offered the sofa without hesitation, not because I was brave or noble, but because it felt wrong to let her carry another burden. The room itself was modest, with one bed, a small desk, and a window overlooking snow-covered trees glowing under moonlight. Rebecca tried to object, her professionalism flaring up like a shield, but exhaustion won. We were both too tired to argue, too worn down by deadlines and expectations and the quiet loneliness that follows people who spend their lives chasing success. That first night passed with little sleep for either of us. I lay on the sofa staring at the ceiling fan, listening to the wind outside and the subtle sounds of someone else breathing in the same space. It felt strangely intimate, not in a romantic sense, but in the way shared vulnerability always is. Somewhere between midnight and dawn, I realized how rarely I allowed myself to slow down enough to feel anything at all. The job had become my identity, my distraction from a life that had unraveled years earlier when my father passed away and my engagement fell apart within the same season. The next morning, the tension lingered like fog. We prepared for the client meeting in near silence, the unspoken awareness of boundaries carefully maintained. Yet something had shifted. Rebecca seemed softer around the edges, more thoughtful. During the drive to the site, she spoke about the pressure of leadership, the loneliness of being the one everyone depends on but no one checks on. She shared fragments of her life, growing up in Ohio, losing her mother young, and building walls so strong she sometimes forgot how to open them. Over the next 2 days, the project faced setback after setback. Supply issues, miscommunication, and a client who seemed determined to find fault tested every ounce of patience we had. Late nights were spent reviewing plans at the small desk, while snow fell steadily outside. Meals were simple, often eaten in silence, yet filled with a quiet understanding. Without realizing it, we began to rely on each other not just professionally, but emotionally. There were no dramatic confessions, no forbidden moments, only the slow, careful rebuilding of trust in humanity itself. One evening, after the client finally approved the revised proposal, the weight lifted. Relief settled into the room like warmth from the fire. Rebecca sat by the window, staring at the snow, her reflection faint in the glass. She looked tired, but peaceful. That was when I understood that the sofa had never been about sacrifice. It had been about presence, about choosing decency when no one was watching, about offering safety without expectation. That night, sleep came easily, the kind of rest that reaches deep into the soul and repairs things you didn't know were broken. In the morning, as sunlight filtered through the curtains, Rebecca thanked me in a way that carried more meaning than words could hold, not for the sofa, but for seeing her as a person, not just a title. When we returned to Chicago, life resumed its familiar pace, but something had changed. Rebecca became a different leader, more open, more supportive, more aware of the people behind the work. I was promoted months later, not because of that trip alone, but because I finally believed I belonged where I was. We never spoke about that night again, yet its impact followed us quietly, shaping choices, softening edges, reminding us that humanity has a place even in the most structured lives. Years later, when I think back to that lodge in Colorado, I don't remember the cold or the inconvenience. I remember the moment I chose kindness over comfort, and how that simple decision echoed through time. Sometimes the smallest acts create the deepest connections, and the places we least expect become the turning points we needed all along. If this story reached something tender inside you, if it reminded you that compassion still matters in a tired world, please take a moment to like the video, share it with someone who needs encouragement, and subscribe to the channel. Your engagement helps these stories find the hearts they're meant to touch. Before the ending, I have one special request for you. Please comment below with the word kindness if you believe that simple choices can change lives, because in the end, it was never about a room or a sofa. It was about choosing to see another human being when it mattered most, and discovering that sometimes the greatest success isn't measured in promotions or profits, but in the quiet knowledge that you did the right thing when you had the chance.